So let's move on, and let's say the next category, which is nothing but my data scrubbing. Basically, this is very unique category, as it is the naming convention has been used in a different manner, but the operation is different. When I say scrubbing, scrubbing goes to, like, we might can think, okay, we are trying to do something which is nothing but we are going to scrub it and make it clean. That's what we can see it, or have a vision about this naming convention, like we are scrubbing the data and we are making and polishing it or cleaning it, right? But basically here at this point, the naming convention is entitled, like when you scrub anything, you are actually seeing the original part, or you are making it more pure. The data will not be impure anymore. So what is the impurity in the data? See, with the perspective of reporting, we can see each and every column of data can be presented in a manner it only help us to understand the business. When I say I'm getting a salary, okay, so salary will be my major field. Okay, all right, I have a salary where I'm a sales executive. So being as a sales executive, I'm getting a salary every month. Also, I'm getting some commission on sales. Whatever the sales will be performed by me or performed under me is subject of commission. So when I'm getting a commission and salary both, end users definitely wanted to know that how much total amount I'm taking every month in my pocket or at my house. Alright, so instead of looking onto the data which is presented in front of you as say salary and your commission, I would like to calculate it in a single manner, saying that total salary. So that is one example over here when we say data scrubbing process. Also, I can present this customer name thing as data scrubbing category relies on one thing, that whatever column you have at the source side and whatever column which is not present into the source side can also be derived at this process. Data scrubbing process will give us those column which is not there in the source. We can derive it. Any derivation can be performed over in this category. As of now, we haven't did any derivations, right? We are doing all these procedures, normal procedures, right? But here I'm going to derive the data at this stage. So how do we derive it? Let's say I have a simple example, like I didn't had a customer name previously, and now I'm having a customer name which actually gives us with the combination of 3 different columns. All right, we didn't had a column called customer name. Now I have a customer name onto the target by combining my first name, middle name, and last name by concatenating it. Right. So we got my customer name. The new column has been generated, which is not there on the source side. Or let's say, what is my total amount? When I say total amount taken at home. So total amount, instead of presenting it, because always we are going to take a perspective of querying and reporting. Alright, so total amount is nothing but my salary plus the commission. This is a provision we are taking it. Alright, that is another example. Total amount will be calculated at this place, and we scrubbed the data and finally we got polished and clean data. Okay, clean data means there is no impurity anymore in there. Means there is no confusion on this side. Like, okay, salary and commission. What is this commission is? This is towards to the salesperson, and he is taking the total salary of or total amount of this much amount. All right. Then moving onward, we have another example. Let's say I have to calculate with the business perspective revenue. So how do we calculate the revenue? If we have quantity column and price column. If we have quantity column and price column, then we are going to multiply it, right?
Yes.
What we are going to do? We are going to multiply it and we are going to get it a revenue. So revenue was previously not there, right? Revenue was not there. We just created it. While into this stage, we are creating it. That's why this area of transformation is also known as staging area. What we call it?
Staging.
Staging area. We stage the data. So this is this also can be called as staging area. All right. So let's move on. We are and this stage we are calculating the data, and we are making a data or taking a data with the business perspective, business reporting perspective. All right. So this revenue is more helpful for me, right? Instead of we are looking onto the quantity and price, that may not give us better picture of the business, where we will have better picture now when we have revenue at my side. All right. There's one more point I would like to highlight over here when we talk about OLTP OLAP. OLAP never gives you a multi-picture of the business. The multi-nature business, or multiple picture of the business can't be seen from the OLTP side, where OLAP's data are more inclined for the multiple pictures. Okay, what do you mean by multiple pictures? When I say, okay, tell me the transaction happened in the month of June in 2012. If I wanted to know that what's happening in my account, in my bank account, and I simply ask the question on top of my account, like show me, like simply I said to my account, like show me what is my transaction in last month, June 2012. So immediately it will give me, right? Immediately it will give me what are the transaction happened. If I say what are the credits happened from my account and tell me what are the debits, two different questions. So it will show me credits and debits separately. But what if I say show me the debits happened in June in 2014 and 2013. So I have a different time period aspect over here, right? I'm talking about two different years, 13 and 14. When I'm talking about 13 and 14, this question can't be answered by the OLTP side, right? This will be only answered by the OLAP side, which is inclined of more historical information. Right or wrong?
Yes.
The first
Right.
two questions can be easily answered, or first three questions will be easily answered by my OLTP side. But when I'm talking about the different pictures of the business area to compare it, then we are stucking at that part. We are not able to achieve it. That's why we can come to the conclusion saying that OLTP doesn't provide us multiple nature of the picture or multiple nature of the business. Where OLAPs are more inclined on reporting side, so they always provide us. We can have a comparison in different parts, and based on that we can predict some better plan towards the growth of the business. Okay, so this data scrubbing part, let's come to the data scrubbing part once again. This data scrubbing part will always give us a proper view of the business by calculating, by deriving your column which is not there under the source side. We didn't have a customer name, we didn't have a total amount, we didn't have a revenue at the source side. Alright, let me move on to the last category, which is nothing but a data aggregation. And it's very easy category. We have it. We are going to make the data in aggregated format, and based on like aggregated format, and based on the aggregation for functions, we are going to perform these operations. Like we have 5 of the aggregate functions, some maximum, minimum, average, and count, right?
Yeah.
So by using these all functions, we are going to achieve this data aggregation category. So whomever transformation is supporting this all functionality can be categorized as data aggregation category. So as I described these 4 categories just for my staging area. The staging area has been divided in 5 groups, and these are the groups name we have. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on and talk about some of the sources onto the ETL side, because we just have an overview about the data warehousing. Now let's talk about everything onto the ETL perspective. All right. So when we're talking about with the ETL perspective, we can see our sources are like my sources are divided in 2 different categories. When I say source, transformation we have dealt it, right? When we talk about source, it's been divided in 2 categories. When we talk about sources, the sources are divided in 2 different categories. They are nothing but my internal and external sources. These are nothing but my external and internal sources. So nature of dealing with this data are depending on what the type of the data is, whether it is internal and external. So how do we specify what is internal sources and what is my external sources? When we talk about databases, we always include these databases or any application as a internal source. When we talk about the file system, the flat files, we will categorize them as a external source. We know that we have a different way by which we can manage my, or when we say in Informatica we have categorization. When we are talking about internal source, we have a different category. When we are talking about external source, we have a different category. That means if I'm taking a file as a source, the file system will be there. If I'm taking data from database or any application, the application-based system will be there. So it's been categorized. Sources are also been defined perfectly so that the data can be managed more easily or more accurately. We are pretty aware about that. Each and every EIM tool are having their own way of architecture, right? So Informatica actually follows metadata management system, where each of the meta will be managed onto the repository side, so that it can be utilized any number of times while doing a job designing. We know that in data stage also we can maintain the meta, we can make the job reusable, or we can make each of the stage reusable with respect to the jobs, right?
Yes.
We know that we can also manage it so that it can work as a reusable object. So Informatica also do that, where several tools in EIM world are there, they never ever manage metadata. What is metadata? It's nothing but a structure of the table
Yeah.
or definition of the table with length and data type, right?
Yeah.
That is metadata, data about data.
Data.
All right. So my sources are complete now, which is categorized in 2 different categories. Let's move on to the target side. Now we have already dealt with the transformation. From the ETL side, we have a source, transformation, and target. All right. So let's talk about the target now. The target are also going to be categorized. Target means we are talking about loading, right? Source means extraction. Can we say that? And target means we are actually talking about how do we load it. So loading type we have two. We have loading type which is categorized in 2 different categories. We call it initial load or incremental load.
Incremental load, yeah.
Yeah. So that is another name. You can say synonyms of it. Initial loads and incremental load.
Incremental loads.
Initial load, which we can call it full
Historical,
load.
yeah.
Full load. Basically, historical data will be loaded in this. and the second we have is incremental load. Alright, or this can be also called delta load. So here I am loading the current information, and in this category I am loading the historical information, right? So let me mention it. Let's have a quick on this. Basically, we are loading here historical data, the initial load or full load, and this category is holding up my nothing but the current information, right?
Yeah.
So whenever we say delta load, it's nothing but we are trying to load the current information. Alright, when we are managing my histories, I'm talking about my initial load or full load. Alright, one second. So these are the types we have. These are the categories we have from ETL side. Not to forget that in EAM world, we have these all things present at our side. Alright, now it's time to move on and talk about my nothing but from the agenda. As I discussed, I have made it like we have to talk about a little bit about data warehousing. We discussed, we have to talk about ETL. Now we have to take a ETL on Informatica Power Center side. So let's talk about the Informatica Power Center.
Manoj, I have a quick question
How does
here.
Informatica? Yeah, go ahead. Tell me.
Go back to the slide where you had the
Uh-huh.
loads, the initial.
Uh-huh.
So, what do you think is the main difference between the staging and target once it got the data? Basically, it's in staging it has a data related to that specific load, right? Whenever you're processing the transactions. So, besides transaction ID, is there any other way to when you push data into the target, you push all the data you got in that load. So how do you identify the transaction type? Like when you're pushing data from staging to target, then is it a insert, update, or delete? In Informatica, is there a way to identify how the data is getting pushed?
No, I'm not clear about your
Suppose
question.
I have 10 records in this load. I brought 10 records into staging. Okay. Of these 10, I know that 3 of them are new records, 3 of them are existing records, and 4 of them are records that are marked for delete. Basically, I want to a customer is leaving me, so basically that data will not be needed anymore, so I want to mark that for delete in the target. How does it handle it?
So see, we have a way. We have not dedicated transformation given for that, but we have a way to achieve it. By combining several transformation, we used to achieve it that SCDs. You're talking about SCD type 2, where you are trying to update your data, delete your data, or maintain the history as well.
Yes.
Which is going to be update as a insert and update as a delete. So at that time, we are not having a specific transformation, which is going to deliver you right away the that operation. But we have a way. We have a way to achieve it. The different approaches are there by the different developers, but generally, specifically, if you say for updates, we have one update strategy transformation there inside the Informatica, where we set it up the property that how data is going to be loaded up, where it is going to be insert, or where it is going to be update, or where it is going to be a delete. So that is one stage, but achieving those all methods will be a combination of different transformation. Like,
Okay.
but only
I'm
one
trying to
typical
see
thing.
if there's something like change capture in data stage. Does
No, no, no.
Informatica have any features?
Change caption on the. That's what I said. Update strategy transformation.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
The stage
Okay.
is that.
Okay.
So, like, we have everything. As you know that this is a ETL ruler. Like in EIM world, this is the top leading tool in the market, right? So definitely it's a robust in for functionality. But if you go for comparison with the data stage to Informatica, definitely there are a few things which is not inside it or maybe not there in the data stage as well.
Oh,
So
yeah, each tool
basically,
is unique. Yeah.
yeah. Few things are unique, right? Absolutely. But you can achieve it anything by using this tool. There is no issue. But there
Okay.
is a way. There's a
Okay.
way we can adapt it. Anyway.
Okay. Sure.
So
Yeah. Please
let's
proceed.
move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on and talk about my Informatica Power Center with respect to the ETL.
Okay.
How does it provides the functionality of ETL, right? So what are the Informatica Power Center as a ETL we are going to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a ETL. So when I'm talking about Power Center, I have to mention that like how many tools are offered inside it and what are their functionalities. Just a quick overview so that then we can understand when we are talking about architecture how the things are arranged over here. As Informatica works on metadata management, and the basic is like we have to manage the meta of my data, and the first thing I can say, it supports metadata management. And also, not to forget that in all ETL applications or any applications, they are always categorized with respect to repositories. So when I'm saying repositories, repositories can be DB type, and it can be also as file type. So if you say, like I have seen a couple of applications which is maintaining the repository in file type, and some are necessarily looking for a database to manage their repository. So Informatica is one of it which manages the repository in databases. So we must have to configure our database before we proceed using our Power Center tool. So
Okay.
when we are installing the Power Center, Informatica Power Center, what it happens as a configuration part in the middle of the installation, we must have to make our database ready. That means before we implement our Informatica, a database server need to be integrated in there. Or we must have to have a database there before we start installing my Informatica Power Center. Alright, so that we can assign that database to be work as a repository, where we know that each and every task on top of this repository will be processed by the integration services, right? So integration service is not but you can say it's nothing but my service, or it's a dedicated server which is going to take care of my entire process of the job, like where is my source, where is my target, what are the transformation happening here. Those all things on the runtime, who will take care of it? The integration services are responsible for that. So when I'm assigning a repository, DB as a repository, integration services are running dedicated for the repositories itself. We have, if I have 4 repositories, we will have 4 dedicated integration services inside the project. So just I'm giving overview, not to take it like more complex, because when we are talking about the architecture, we are also talking about these all things. But always I'm talking about the related thing which is necessary before we start working on any of environment. And this environment is nothing but Informatica environment. So when I'm saying we have a repository dedicated for Informatica, we can proceed our work without specifying the repository. I can mention, like with not even specifying the repository, you can proceed for installation. Within the installation, you have to make your DB ready with yourself. Then only the installation can be processed, completed. Okay, so once this process is completed, my DB has been specified as a repository. Then after finishing of entire installation, I have to make sure that in the integration services are assigned to this repository. If it is not assigned, when I'm trying to trigger my job, the job will not be executed. Why? Because there is no integration services is supported to that repository. How do we take data from the sources? Who will take care of it? How to move it? Where to move it? Where we have specified that, okay, I have to move it, I have to take it from A and I have to move it into B. But who is going to check where is A and where is B? I have defined the connection also. But who is going to check out this connection, whether it is working or not? Those all, or you can say these all are tasks of my integration services. Integration services is responsible for my entire operation after designing a job. Once the job design is ready, perform this all operation based on the integration services itself. Alright, so basically at this point of time, we can see each repository will be assigned with integration services. Alright, let me move onward and let me talk about the tool side. What are the tools offered inside it for my purpose? So we have majorly 3 client tools for 3 different purposes. Informatica believe on specifying each and every operations in a different environment. As you know that the entire flow of ETL followed with the job design, then we have to follow through with the workflow, and then we have to follow through with the monitoring of the job which is already running. Alright, so we have 3 different specific tasks, and these all 3 tasks will be tackled under this Informatica environment in 3 different environments. So basically the 3 different types of tools we are having it as a client tools inside the Power Center. Like as a client part, Informatica Power Center offers us the 3 different environments. The first one is designer, second one is workflow, manager, and third one is your monitor. So basically the task or the property of these all 3 different client tools is, like under the designer, Informatica Power Center designer tool, we are designing a ETL, means we are designing a job. How the job will be processed, that will be decided, and that will be managed under Workflow Manager. Alright, and each and every operation, if you have to monitor it after it runs, then that can be done under this monitoring tool. So these are the offering we have as of now inside the Informatica Power Center as a client tools, where we have also admin tool offered inside it, which is known as Informatica Power Center Admin Console, which is a web-based tool. These all are my client tools, which is a desktop-based tools. When we talk about the admin admin part, we have only one tool, which is a web-based application. Administrator console. So this is web-based tool, okay? So this web-based tool has a feature that it can be operated in any web browser from any location. There is no location constraint for this particular tool inside my Informatica Power Center. So let's have a quick view about these all tools inside the Power Center environment, and then we can start looking onto the other part. Okay, so I have a VMware installed in my system, and it's having a Power Center already here. So let me get in.
Okay.
And now you could see the Informatica as a client and server. So underlying the server, we have only one tool called Informatica Administrator Homepage or Administrative Console. This is web-based tool. But client, we have for Power Center Designer, Power Center Repository Manager, Power Center Workflow Manager, and Power Center Workflow Monitor.
Okay.
Let me say that this is also a administrative tool which is desktop based, used for repository management. Let's say, let me go back to the slide here where I can say, okay, I have another one which is dedicated for repository management. The task of this is to manage my repository. But it's an admin tool. As you know that being as a developer, we are not going to use this tool. But what if this environment will be managed for the multi-development? Okay, when we have a multiple developers, each of the developers are assigned with their unique local repository, right? So we have to create it, we have to manage it, and we have to also assign it for the client tools. So that all tasks, like we have created the repository, all right. In admin console, I have created a repository. That is done. But how do we take those repository to the client tool side? How do we integrate it? That integration will happen by this repository manager itself. Okay, so just have a look onto this slide. Not on the slide, this VMware, where I have this Informatica Power Center installed. So client tools, we have Power Center Designer, Power Center Repository Manager, Power Center Workflow Manager, and Power Center Monitor. So at this point of time, I wanted to give you a quick view about how it looks like these all tools. Well, before we proceed further, we must have to start our services for Informatica. For starting our services for Informatica, we have dedicated instance given inside the server part. If you look at here, we have an instance given by which you can directly start your services. It says start Informatica services, stop Informatica services. So what I did, I have placed everything onto the desktop, where I have in here three of the database: SQL Server, Oracle, and Teradata. So we can utilize this environment for our development purpose and for further classes and training purpose. Anyhow, where we have already the database and file system present inside it, just we have to take it and populate it. So let me start my Informatica service now, and by the starting of the Informatica services, I can connect with my repositories. All right, my services will be start. Once the services will start, I would like to show you first of all my Informatica Administrative Console, which is nothing but a web-based tool. As I mentioned, it's a web-based tool. It can be operated at any browser. I believe it's not been started as of now. Now you could see this console has been open, Informatica Administrator, and this is web-based tool. As I mentioned once again, let me enter my username and password for authenticating myself. So now we are into this administrative console where I can manage my repository and integration services both. Where I can see we have one node called Ramon, and we have one one host called Ramon, and we have one node called Ramon. So this license has for one node only, where clustering can be done over here. We can practice anything, but here when it comes to the repositories, we can see that repo is my one repository and support is my another repository. Alright, so there are two repository I have created here. At this part I can create a number of repository. It supports a number of repository. There's no point of thinking about that. We can create any number of it, but you could see these are my integration services. So each of the integration services is dedicated for the repositories, where Ravana is for support and tech is for support for repo. If you want to see that, you could see that the picture of this side which shows up onto the right hand side, which says the picture of my repositories and my integration services.
Integration services. Okay.
Yeah, and we know that for each repository we have dedicated integration services. So here we have different tabs. We can manage our domain. That means how do we environment will work. That is the domain part, where logs for each and everything will be managed over here. Okay. Then monitoring, I can monitor even from the monitoring tool onto the administrative console. What's happening into my environment, I can monitor it. I can track down everything from here. I can generate a simple report from here from date to date. I can manage my security, means everything, like which user is going to be authenticated with what access. I can decide it here. Okay, when I say user, I have a list of users here, those who are working inside this environment. All right. So as it is having a two different repository, I have created two different users here, and we can assign their accesses over here by using these privileges. Okay. So as of now, this is something which is dedicated for the user management. This is for security for the user management. We can assign and give access to the multiple users and multiple.
I have a question here, Manoj. So
Yeah.
here you see 4 processes. Basically, this is the sum of the integration services and repository services.
Which one?
You see under nodes 4 processes. So basically, this is the total number of integration services and repository services, or is it a separate?
No. That is the one. That is the one.
Okay, so if you have, as you keep adding more repositories or integration, this keeps increasing. Okay.
Yeah. Means what are the services you're utilizing? Repository services, and if you look at here, basically these are my services available. You can create any of the services. Metadata management service, SAP BW service. So it's talking about how many services has been utilized as of now. The 4 services are running. All right.
Okay.
Generally, we are using a repository and integration service. We are not taking anything else because it's just an environment which is used for like the training purpose, not a development environment.
Okay.
So this is my admin console, and let's move out to the client parts, where the first client tool or major client tool we have inside the Power Center is Designer, Power Center Designer, where Informatica try to make it more colorful to make everything better and interactive and not boring anyhow. So if you look at here, each and every client tool has a specific color and their specific indication. When I say D means it's a designer, W means workflow manager, M means monitor, and R means repository manager. So Power Center Designer is my major tool for development. And in development environment, we will have access of my Power Center only most of the time, because all ETL design will be performed inside it. You could see that now it says repository, and we have 2 repositories shows up here. So which repository you want to connect with, you just go and right click and say connect. You just have to define your repositories. One second, let me test it. Okay, no, it's not done. So basically, when you go and connect it, one second, you can connect with your repository. where repositories has a exact standard structure of metadata management inside the Power Center. What happened? Generally, we have all the structure inside it created underlying the repository. So we could see that I have created 3 different folders here. We call it folders at this place, where each of the folder has their own structure. Like this is my default structure inside the Power Center, and that is used for making the object reusable. Okay, like if I have a source, if I have to make it reusable, that is only going to happen if I place it here. So these all structures are here. Whatever we are creating in, that will goes inside this folder, subfolders. Okay, so we have a repository. That repository has been separated by this folder. Like each and every repository has its own area, right? Space. So that space has been divided by using a folder, and folders are holding the structure. So these all folders are created at the repository manager itself.
So does each folder relate to a specific project, kind of?
Yeah, a specific project.
Okay.
Like, yeah, like we can call it nowadays, the new ETL tools are having a concept of project creation.
Okay.
So projects are nothing but a folder. So this is what the folder is. But they doesn't contain any type of structures, predefined structures. Where Informatica has a predefined structures. These all instance you'll get it automatically when you're creating a folder. All right.
Okay. So I have a question here.
So
this is on my client's machine. This is on my desktop. So and we have a team of 3 developers working on the same project. Each one has a copy of the project on their local client, right? So how does it synchronize? Suppose I make some changes. So do you have a version check-in, check-out process that will update the main project? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Without that, we can't have a multiple development environment, right?
Okay.
We must have to have it. But that is not related to this one. This is something which is just a simple structure. It provides us to have management of everything onto our side. Okay. So let me populate this one. And for populating this part of the job or any part of the job, we must have to go and, one second, let me see. All right. So I just populated the batch number 50 folder, and whatever we have underlying this, you can see it. You could see that flat file source, Oracle source, XML source. So under the source category, we have categorization start appearing here. If I'm taking any further source, it will categorize it. As I mentioned earlier also, it manages the meta and it defines the source in separate level, like is it the internal source or external source. So categorization of source are well defined here. Also the targets are well defined here. So targets are not been categorized as like what type of source it is. They will be listed here normally. So you could see all the enlisted target as of now, and we can utilize their meta anytime for reusability. Although we can see the mappings here, whatever the mappings we have created as of now has been shown up inside this mapping list. So this is out the designer side, where let me take onto the source, where designer has different tabs to define each my operation. Like if I have to specify my source, I have to go to the first tab which says source analyzer. This is nothing but my tree structure of my repository default folders, and this is my designing area. Onto your right hand side, this is the white area which is called as designing area. So this is my designing area. Under this designing area, you find out you have the major 5 tabs on top of the designing area, right? These are the 5 tabs over here, which is used for going to the different environment for different purpose. We have well-established menu here, and these are the toolbars, advanced toolbars, where all the transformations are enlisted. This is my transformation toolbar, which is not highlighted as of now because we are not onto that stage. All right. So the first tab is nothing but a source analyzer. We are going to analyze the source. Where is my source? What is my source? Can be done over here. So we are assigning a source under this source analyzers. If you look at here, when I'm changing the tab, my menu is also going to change.
Yeah.
Look at here, this is 3 of the menu. When I'm moving to the target, it will change.
Yeah.
So the point is, when I'm onto this environment, it supports me everything. So I have to take the source. How do we take it? I have to go to the menu and I have to take it, import from the database, import from the file, import from the COBOL file, and import from XML definition.
Okay.
And some of the applications are also been integrated here, like my you can say Salesforce.com, PeopleSoft, Tibco, like whatever has like whomever having a good collaboration with Informatica, they have tried integrated their sources over here so that the operation will be more simplified. All right. We also have option to create the table. We can create it, or we can create our source and we can connect it with existing one. Create means we can define our schema, our definition of the table by our own. Where importing means we are populating it, which is pre-existing, right? So here I'm just taking a meta of each of everything. We are moving the meta, but actual data movement will happen at the different stage. Well, when we have done with the designing of my source, the next thing we have is a target designer. The target designer. So target designer also have the different options. Like we can import it if it is already there, or we can create it.
Yeah.
So while we are creating it, some tool supports creation of the table in runtime. Means you don't have to worry about that. You must have to create a target table before we proceed with triggering the job. Some tools supports, like from the SAP's end. Yeah. So like in data stage also, we have like we will take the file and automatically it will be created on runtime. So we don't have to specify the target before we'll start the job, right? So anyhow, yeah. So it creates in a runtime actually. So here in Informatica, it's not like that. You must have to define your target. The target should be there, not with the file system, but with the databases. When it comes to database load, you must have to have target already designed. The metadata already specified onto the target side. The table definition should be there. Then only your job will load the data, or it will be finished properly. All right. So for that sake, whenever you are creating a target, Informatica has given you an option by which you can generate the SQL. You don't have to worry about writing a SQL anywhere on the target, and you don't have to write a SQL. You just have to create your definition onto this environment, target environment. Or if you are taking source also as a target, suppose like the definitions are same, just we have to do a little bit modification into the source to target.
Different schema.
Yeah. So we can take the source also as a target, the meta of the source as a target. All right. And then what we can do, we can go to the target and we can generate my SQL for this current definition. What happens? Generate execute SQL. This is one option which allows us to generate SQL for the current definition. All right. And it can be connected to the concerned database, and that SQL can be executed directly over there. So what will happen? Automatically my table definition will be created inside the database without doing any effort onto the my query side. Means we don't have to write any SQL anyway. It is going to generate it right away into this target environment. All right. Then we can move to the third tab, which is nothing but my transformation developer. Basically, this tab we are least using it, but when we are going into the real-time development, we are using it more, because transformation developer is nothing but a tab which allows us to create a transformation. Like as of now, we specified the source and target. Majorly what happened in ETL, we must have to identify our source and target first of all. Then we have to go for the transformation. If my source is ready, my target is ready, we are good to go for the transformation. That's why the first one is a source, second one is your target, and third one is your transformation developer. So transformation developer is used for developing your transformation. Here is the menu, transformation. You can import or also you can create it. Alright, once we are done with the transformation, we have certain options present over here, like my maplet designer. We can have in this maplet designer, we can have a list of transformation combined together, and we can make it reusable. Suppose like I have a same logic running all the time. So we are not going to design every time the same transformation. We don't have a definition change. We don't have a logic change. So what is the point of changing my transformation? There is no point. So if you want to use it same design, same logic, then you don't have to worry about that. Create it once under the maplet designer, and what you are going to get it a bunch, a packet. A packet has one instance, which you can take it over here into the mapping, and you can execute it with the target. So all the logics and all those definitions will be applied immediately onto the target side. Let's say like I am sorting it, and I'm aggregating it, and also I'm joining it. 3 different operations I have to do always. So instead of creating every time, what I'm going to do is I'm combining these all 3 transformation. Okay, these all 3 business logics, and make it as a one. So we will have one instance for all these 3. Got my point? That will be deal under maplet designer. Under maplet designer, that make it reusable, the transformation bunch, like group of transformation in any of the complex cases where you have multiple jobs to design with the same way. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. You just have to take source, target, and integrate them with the maplet. That's all you have to do it at the multiple job designing side where logics are same. Then at the end we have mapping designer. This is the critical area, guys, because this is the critical area because here I define how data will flow from source to target by transformation. Where you could see we have in Informatica a default transformation always coming from the source side. When I'm talking about default transformation, that is not what my source qualifier transformation, which always comes with the source. Whenever you take a source from this folder, you will have into the mapping designer source analyzer coming with the source. The importance of source analyzer is it identified the source and helped the source to make it more clearly presented onto the transformation and further step side. Okay, so we have a default transformation which is always coming in whenever we are taking a source called source analyzer. Sorry, source qualifier. Source qualifier is a transformation which is default, and it is used for the source side. It automatically comes when you are dragging a source. You will get your source table and your source qualifier. All right. So once everything is done, you did the mapping. So under the mapping side, you could see the path designing is happening. All data will flow from the source to the target. Okay? And then once we are done with that, once we are done with this, we can save the job, which is going to be saved into the repository. Now, my role of my workflow manager is coming in. So what I'm going to do with this workflow manager now, I'm going to direct my job how it is going to be proceed further. Where is my source? Where is my target? All those things will be tackled over here, right? So let me open up. We have designed a job, right? So where did I mention that? Where is the source? Where is the target? The connectivity. So under this workflow manager, we will manage my entire workflow, how it will run. All right. How it will run, where is the source connection, where is the target connection, all those things will be defined underlying it. So we have a task developer where we develop a task as a session where all the configurations will be there. If you look at the mapping part, you will have the connections, strings given here, like where is my source, where is my target, and what are the transformation happening here, so that integration services will be take action properly. Once this task has been developed, we have to go in a workflow designer. I'm just skipping the workflow designer because it's a combination of several tasks. If you have to execute a multiple task, we can create a bunch of tasks and we can put it into the workflow designer and we can use it for execution. So there will be one instance with workflow. The start button is nothing but a workflow. When you create your workflow, it actually triggers it. Triggers my task. The task has all the information about the mapping. Where is the source? Where is the target? What is the transformation? And this is the trigger, which is, we call it workflow. Workflow is a trigger which is going to trigger this task. Once the task has been triggered, what happened? This is the only responsibility of workflow manager or workflow designer. Okay, just we have to define the task here, and just we have to go to the mapping tab and we have to define our connection. That's all. And then we have to go to the workflow designer. We have to create a workflow. Create a workflow. We have to validate it, start it, save it. So when you start it, what happens? It starts up and it goes up and it loads the data, or the process will be start up. So how do we see where the process has been started? That has been tackled by the workflow monitor. So whatever job has been started can be monitored by here.
Can you navigate from one client tool to another?
Yeah.
Like
from starting.
Okay.
One second. Let me show you.
Okay.
Basically, this is monitor. Understand this fact. When we go to the designer, which is a first step, you could see that all the instances are
there. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to go back and from the start when you have to open it. What when you can directly navigate, and there is no point of, like, if you are connected to the repository, if you are operated with another client tools, automatically it will be connected.
Okay.
If you launch it from the another client tools. Okay. So I can launch it my workflow from here. I can launch it my monitor from here based on the requirement. So this is the overview of entire tool offer inside it. These are the client tools offered. And this is one admin tool we have offered. Majorly we have to concentrate on this, and this, because this is going to use once to manage my repository, to create one repository. Otherwise, a major or most of the time of ours is going to be under this designer tool. All right. So this is all about for today, I can say. Further sessions we can go and dig more about Informatica Power Center, and we'll see how entire repository creation and repository configurations and integration services deployment happens in the Informatica environment. And by that, once the environment is ready for us, our repository is ready for us, we can start doing the development. All right.